This is Dave Cooper, and we are in Denver, Colorado at the Housing Innovation Alliance live roundtable event. And I am standing with John McManus, who you may know from Builder Magazine. John, pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
David.
This is awesome. So I've been reading your articles for years and years and years. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Builder.
What we try to do is to bring value to our audiences and help them be smarter about what their decisions on everything from the real estate part of it, the development, the investment part, and then all of the construction and operations aspects of building.
Yeah, so. Sure. So, John, what brings you to the Housing Innovation Alliance event here in Denver?
Well, I'm a curious person, and it's a great community. The Housing Innovation Alliance is doing work that I admire a great deal. We are working on some of the same issues, the great chronic problem of trying to solve for housing affordability, and all of that involves is really sort of what brought me out here.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit, about housing attainability, affordability. Where do you see the industry heading, and how do you think we get there to actually crack the code to attainable housing?
It's a process, and I think that coming at it, almost triangulating around it, which is that there's certainly productivity issues, construction productivity, and achieving it so that builders can capture costs, their own costs and wastes in the system. And then we have the forces of regulatory control on the cost to consumers of household. So working from the standpoint of policy and regulation to try to be effective with those decision makers on making it so that that's more doable. And then thirdly, the world of finance. And I think that mortgage lending, capital investment, capital lending to builders, that's a big factor in sort of bringing about more favorable conditions for builders to do the work that they do to make housing more affordable.
Yeah, and I agree with all that, and that's a lot of the things we're actually talking about here today. One of the other things we're talking about is the innovation, right? What is the disruptor? What is the innovation that's going to drive this forward in our industry? What are you seeing on the front lines out there?
Well, I see great cases and bright spots of innovation that are occurring in isolation in markets, among different firms, among technological approaches using data. There's so much great work being done and so much passion in startups, in medium-sized companies, and then in bigger and bigger companies. But what I think is sort of the absence so far is that it hasn't really gelled into a community where there's a sort of unified purpose around innovation that everyone can begin to relate to and make a framework for how the housing community starts to solve for these problems. Right.
So do you see it coming? Are you seeing bits and pieces of this happening? I mean, if you were to predict, and I know we don't like to predict in our industry, what do you see is actually happening from your angle?
I think that there have been some steps forward in the right direction around the whole productivity issue. Some of that is coming from desperation because there isn't going to be a return to the days where skilled labor is ever going to be plentiful and cheap again. We're never going to see days where land prices are going to come down so far that will be a cheap commodity. And thirdly, the cost of lending and capital, it looks as if that there's going to be so many parties have an interest in that getting access to cheap labor, cheap capital is very, very difficult. So I think innovation serves to sort of capture opportunity in light of the fact that those raw materials that had been cheap in various parts of the cycle are now going to stay expensive, and technology and data and innovative initiatives are really the way to address that.
I love it. I mean, hearing it from you, you're on the front lines, you're writing about things all the time. If you don't know John McManus, you do now. Follow him on Builder. Follow everything that he does. He's a very, very, very smart man and has been around this industry a long time. So thank you so much. We are in Denver, Colorado at the Housing Innovation Alliance live roundtable. John McManus, Builder Magazine. I'm Dave Cooper. We'll see you next time.